people hear kombucha is good for me. So they go to the supermarket and they're like, oh, they have triple berry kombucha. I'm going to have this.
We can get into some fun on fact or fiction in a minute, but one of the ones I want to touch on is like white rice versus brown rice. I thought for a long time the healthy version was brown. So I was that guy at the sushi restaurant that's ordering brown rice, and all the sushi guys at they're like, who is this white guy like trying to order brown rice at a sushi restaurant? Like, what's he doing?
It just doesn't taste as good.
It doesn't, man. It doesn't. And I heard it's harder for your body to process.
It's got a lot more fiber. Technically, brown rice might be more contaminated with arsenic than white rice. But you have to think, at a sushi restaurant, you're eating white rice that's cool on the sushi. And once you cook that white rice and you've cooled it back down, you've actually altered the starch molecule in the rice, and you've created a resistant starch that is actually really good for you. It's good for your microbiome. It's a prebiotic for the microbiome. And it also helps with insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance.
Okay, so when you're cooking your Cuban food, do you cook and then cool the rice?
Not always. Because look, listen, when I eat leftovers, sometimes I'll just be eating the cold white rice because I know it's good for my gut.
Okay, now let me ask you. So eating the cold white rice is good, but if you heat it up again, does that benefit go away?
Once you've cooled it down, if you don't heat it up too high, you actually retain that altered starch. So the recommendation is you cook the rice, put it in the fridge after you finish cooking it, cool it back down to room temperature. And once it's at room temperature, the starch has changed. Now it's a resistant starch. So you can have your white rice. It's like having your cake and eating it too. You can have your white rice and enjoy it. And now it's not as bad for you.
Well, that's great to hear, because the macro lovers like myself, we always like to go low carb, low carb, low carb. And it's a guy from Louisiana. Everything has rice in it. You know, it's red beans and rice, and, you know, crawfish etouffee and rice, and gumbo and rice. Fact or fiction, yogurt is healthy for your gut.
Yeah. Look, there was a study done by Stanford University where they looked at a high fermented foods diet versus a fiber-rich diet. And this came out in 2021. In the fall. They took a group of 36 people, divided them into two groups of 18, and they put them in one of these diet branches. And the ones that were eating, they put them on a high fermented foods diet. They were eating more yogurt. They were eating vegetable brine drinks. Their microbial diversity improved more than the fiber-rich group. Now, what is microbial diversity? The variety of microorganisms that are in your gut. Who cares about microbial diversity? Well, the reason is, the other thing they found is that the more diverse your gut is, the more these 19 different inflammatory markers dropped. Microbial diversity is the holy grail when it comes to gut health, because the more diverse your gut microbiome is, the less inflammation you have in your body. And one way to achieve that is through yogurt.
So how do you find the non-crap yogurt? What should people be looking for in their yogurt?
I mean, look at the label, because it probably has like 20, 30 some grams of sugar in there.
So much sugar in these things. So much.
If you're going for yogurt, go for a plain yogurt, like a Greek yogurt, like something really simple. If you're lactose intolerant, you can still a lot of times tolerate yogurt. It's going to be lower in lactose.
What about kombucha? Fact or fiction, good for your gut?
Caveats.
Okay, hit us.
Don't you know that I like, you're coming into my brain. My brain is not black and white. It's like
I know. I'm pushing.
It's like it's not even 50 shades of gray. It's like 1,000 shades of gray.
1,000 shades of gray.
I'll tell you why the caveat. If you read my book, The Gut Smart Protocol, and you take the quiz, the Gut Smart quiz, and find out what your gut type is, what you're going to find is that if you test severe, you actually can't tolerate a lot of fermented things, including kombucha. But you also, again, same thing, going to the supermarket, reading the labels. A lot of kombuchas out there are loaded with sugar. If you could make it at home, that's even better, because then you can control how much sugar is put into it. Kombucha, a lot of times the fermentation and the types of microorganisms that are in kombucha will include some yeast. And if you've got yeast issue, kombucha is going to be really bad for you. You don't want to have any kombucha.
What about sex drive? Can gut health impact sex drive?
That's a really good question, man. Of course.
It's a hell yes. Tell us about it.
Have you tried having sex when your stomach is bloated and full? Like, do you feel like having sex?
Not what people want to do, right?
If you're bloated and you look in the mirror and you don't feel attractive and you feel swollen, the last thing on your mind is going to be sex. It's really important in hormone balance, but also depending on how you're feeling, you're going to be in the mood or you're not going to be in the mood. I can tell you, when my gut is off, I am not in the mood for anything.
So my takeaway for that is, when you go on a date, avoid the all-you-can-eat buffets.
and avoid anything like too much garlic, too many onions, eating too many cruciferous vegetables. Things are going to make you really gassy. So when you want to go home afterwards and have a nightcap, you're like trying to hold in the farts because you're so freaking gassy at the end of your date.
It's better to eat dessert before the meal. True or false?
No way, dude.
I'm just
I'll
saying.
tell you why. I'll tell
Yeah.
you why. They did
Yeah.
a study and it wasn't dessert, but they looked at a meal of chicken with mashed potatoes and a salad. And they had people eat the chicken and mashed potatoes and then the salad and check their blood sugar levels. And they reversed it and they had another group eat the salad first, then the chicken and mashed potatoes. Guess who had the lowest surge in blood sugar after that meal?
Who?
People who ate the salad first. The salad is full of indigestible fibers that form kind of a gelatinous mush inside your gut, that when the other food comes in, the sugars, the more simple sugars like in the mashed potatoes, are now going to have to go through that kind of like gelatinous mush. So the sugar is not going to be able to get into your bloodstream as quickly.
Okay. So the restaurants are actually serving it in the right order, which is salad, main course, dessert.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last question or fact or fiction, if you have a healthy gut, you're going to live longer.
Mic drop. Yes, true.
Woo! Heard it here first, y'all. Have the healthy gut and live longer. I like it. Why write a book in the first? There's a lot of stuff out there on gut health. There's a lot of information, misinformation, of course, but still a lot of questions. I'm sure questions that you get constantly. So why write a book in the first place?